Have you ever skied with a Canadian Level 4 ski instructor, or a Canadian Level 4 course conductor examiner for that matter? These ski teachers are considered some of the best in the industry around the world, and for good reason. There's an extremely difficult process they must go through in order to attain this level of certification. Today on the Big Picture Skiing podcast, you're going to meet one of them, Jason Simpson. And in this podcast, we talk about his journey from beginner instructor all the way up to level 4 course conductor. There's some great takeaways, as well as you're going to hear that Jason and I are teaming up and going to be working together with the Big Picture Skiing Online Academy. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the Big Picture Skiing podcast and get some great takeaways to help advance your own skiing. Jason, I wanted to ask you, what is the earliest memory you have of a skiing breakthrough?
My earliest memory of a skiing breakthrough probably took place during my first week with Club Ski as an instructor. Club Ski was a ski week program based in Banff, where you get to ski Lake Louise, Sunshine, and Norquay every week. And the director at the time was Paul Cunnius. And we were out skiing together, and he said to me, Jason, like, you're way too overflexing your ankle. And I had just come out of ski racing, and I went, no, I'm supposed to be forward, and he said, here, try this position. And he asked me to, straighten my ankle a little bit, take some pressure off the front of the boot, and make some turns. And I was literally like, oh my gosh, that is terrible. I feel terrible, Paul. Like, there's no way that's the right way to stand. He goes, dude, looks really good, and your skis are acting better in the snow. So he had a video camera with him, believe it or not. And I think it might have been shoulder mounted at the time, but he videoed me. And later that evening, we got back and I reviewed the video, and I was so stoked with how I looked. I was like, wow, like, it feels bad, but I'm skiing well. So I need to keep going with this. And so that was one of the first skiing breakthroughs, was just to release my ankle, open it up, from fore and aft, so that I could move better laterally. And that was probably one of the first breakthroughs that I can remember.
Isn't that crazy that?
Yeah.
I mean, you've done racing, and then you're given this thing, and then feels horrible. And
horrible.
And do you think if he'd never videoed that, and it was a one-off, so it's like you had this guy for one day, you said, open your ankle, you do it, feels terrible, you never videoed it, you would probably not continue with that the next day, would you?
Absolutely not. I would have gone back to what felt comfortable, where I felt confident, what I'd been doing for, a decade. I would have continued to stay there. And without the video, and it's interesting because I hadn't thought about it, prior to this conversation, that, wow, that was the impact of video. It brought the point home and made me a believer, and I need to continue to go down this path.
Yeah, absolutely. So you started out, before ski instructing, you did do ski racing.
I sure did. Yeah. I was a bit late to skiing. I would say for, most, lifelong skiers, I was in grade 6. I would have been, 11 or 12 years old. And it was a school trip. Went out with the class to learn how to ski. I was a hockey player, so I had good, and I was a really good skater, not great with the puck, but I could definitely skate. So I had a good sort of proprioception, a good feeling around sliding and angles and that type of stuff. And skiing just hooked me, like, so deep the first time. I could think of nothing else after skiing. And so my parents recognized that, so very quickly signed me up for Nancy Green, the ski program, the next year. And that was it. I was off to the races, and skiing and ski racing shaped my life, even though I came from Nova Scotia and small ski hills, 800 vertical feet type of stuff. It became my life. I couldn't think of anything else, year round. There's something about the aesthetic and feeling of skiing that just took me over.
Okay. And so then you decide you're going to teach skiing. Where do you go and do that first?
Well, the skier I grew up at is called Ski Wentworth in central Nova Scotia. And the way that happened, it's a funny story. Another, I wouldn't say a mentor, but certainly a collaborator, was a guy named Ben Surrett. And we ski raced together. And Ben ended up taking off to Ontario to be a ski instructor when I left for university. And a couple of years later, Ben comes back, and he's a level 3 ski instructor already. And I knew what that was. Like, dude, really? You have your level 3? and he came back to teach at our home hill in Nova Scotia. And I had taken a year off university. And he says to me, you should come out and teach skiing this winter at Wentworth. And I'm like, that's a full-time job? Like, I can do that sort of thing? And he said, absolutely. So that year I took my level 1. That would have been in 1989. Got my level 1 and started as a full-time ski instructor at a 800 vertical foot ski area in Nova Scotia, and certainly a day area, not a resort, a day ski area on the side of the highway. And but we rented a house out on at the hill, and I just got absorbed in it. And the neat part of that story, and this is what really affected me, and if we again think of mentors, that winter we had a level 2 and a level 3 course, like super course at Wentworth. So of the Maritime provinces, all the ski instructors from the probably 10 areas within the Maritime, so New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland, all came to Wentworth, to my home hill. And because there was no level 4s in any of those provinces, I'd never seen one ski, didn't know what a level 4 was. These guys all flew in from Ontario and Quebec, and I saw the level 4 guy ski and teach for the first time, and I was blown away. I'm like, these guys were born with skis on their feet. These guys and girls, like, they know so much about skiing. They speak so eloquently about it. They ski so well. They just made mincemeat of what our hardest trail, the head wall. And so that was a really influential time. So I took my level 2 during the super course. There was 8 groups of level 2, 8 groups of level 3, all at once. So it was this amazing week of ski energy in this little valley, in this very rural little spot. And that's what really supercharged me. I'm like, I wonder if I can be that someday. And I went back, finished my university degree, and promptly moved to Lake Louise and Banff to pursue that dream.
And is that where you met Paul?
In Banff, yes. So I met when I arrived in Banff. And so Ben came as well. A few of us moved out. So Ben Surratt also came out. And I had a job with the Lake Louise Ski School, but it didn't work out that way. I ended up working in the ski shop initially. Had heard that through the grapevine, and being a young, impressionable guy, that you don't want to be in the ski school, man. Those guys aren't cool. This is way cooler. I'm like, really? Because teaching skiing back east was a blast, but all right. And then Ben was working with Lake Louise Ski School. He got a job with Club Ski, and then he comes in and tells me about this. Dude, I'm skiing at all 3 ski areas every week. They pay us to go for dinner, so I'm getting fed. I'm getting tipped. I'm like, what? You need to get me a job. And so I'm in the ski shop one day, and this is honestly how it happened. I'm working in the ski shop at the base of Lake Louise, and Paul comes in the door and asks, is there a Jason Simpson working here? And yes, that's me. And do you have a ski break? I said, yes, I do. I have a ski break at 1:30. He goes, okay, I'll meet you back here. Let's go for a ski. And he did. And he goes, basically, you seem like a reasonable guy. What are you doing tomorrow? I said, well, I have the day off. Because we're going to Sunshine. Why don't you come with us and see what we do? So I jumped in the Club Ski van that day and went into Banff, slept on someone's floor, and did my first day with them. And they're like, you're in. When can you start? And that was the next 4 years of my life with Club Ski were so fundamental to shaping who I became as a ski instructor and as a ski school director, and everything that I learned, from Paul and those that I skied with. And I'll just, to make this long story very short, that spring, that very first spring, got my level 3, and then the next year came back and got my level 4 first go. And so now I'm 22 years old. I've got my level 4, and I honestly didn't know what happened to me. And I don't think I was even ready. If I look back at who I was, I might have been a bit of a parrot. I was really good at repeating the things that I heard, whether I understood them or not. Maybe I was a bit of an actor. Like, I had to grow into I was very young, and I had to grow into being a level 4 over time. So that's how it all
interesting
happened, Yeah.
So would you say in that sort of period, the people you looked at for inspiration and that helped you with your skiing, was that Paul? Was there anyone else? And what did they teach you that you still hold on to today, you would say?
Oh yeah, so much, and so many sort of collaborators or inspirational figures along the way. Man, what a time. Paul was certainly a big one because he really helped guide us. Like within the club ski was a very small group. There was only like 12 of us at the time, and we traveled together every day in a van to and from these ski resorts. We tuned our skis together. We hung out together, and everybody was excited to train, and everybody had a goal. And it was one of the first times I'd been introduced to the concept of morning session. Like we were skiing together every day. And then Paul did really cool off snow training with us, and like, drew the turn and talked about everything that happened within that, and really laid it out for us so that we were ready when we went to the level 4 course. And even that was not a planned thing. Like it happened earlier than I had anticipated, because I knew that nobody passes the first time. A lot of my my training partners hadn't, but they were all going to the course. I remember just saying, I'm going to go too. Heck with it. Like I ski with you guys every day. I'll come and just see what this is all about, and I'll learn. Like it'll be good for my professional development. So off I went and to Silver Star to take the course, right? Because it was the course in January and the exams in the spring. And I felt a little out of place. I didn't have the right ski clothes. I didn't have the right ski boots. I was a little bit out in left field. I was kind of more backcountry skiing than looking like a ski instructor. And sort of that dirtbag vibe, maybe, but I was really impressed with what I saw. And one of the biggest changes that occurred at that course, another really influential person was Cam Watson. And so I did a pedagogy day with Cam, and towards the end of the day, he said, Jason, I think you've got some alignment issues. And I'm like, what's alignment? And he goes, well, just the way your boots are affecting the way you stand, I think is getting in the way of, your ability. Why don't you come by? I'm doing some stuff at the, in the lobby later tonight. So went to meet Cam, and he had these like this gizmo to check your alignment, to check your canting, a little more rudimentary maybe, but he determined that I was 5 degrees out on my left and 3 degrees out on my right. Like I need to be canted inwards. And so that was a really influential time where I'd never heard of alignment before. And it became, to this day, it's still something that I really focus on with the people I work with, is how the equipment is affecting them. Are they in the right boots? And have they done the work that they can with those boots to get them as close to their morphology or their own alignment as possible? So anyways, Cam, we made a plan to do this, and I ordered a bunch of stuff from him, and I got these plates, came in the mail in a big envelope, starting from 1 degree all the way up to 3.5. Chunks of plastic that go under your bindings, right? And he said, don't do it all at once, spend a week at each degree and then change them out. So the only issue with that was, I could only ski on my skis. I could only ski on the edge that the bindings were set up to. And we even just, struggled to find screws to get through the thick side of that plate down into the ski again. But that alignment, that what I learned changed me greatly. Like I was really able to then ski and move better, and over the years, my understanding of alignment has changed a lot, and whether or not you require that kind of, canting and planing of boots, which you can now do, instead of doing it externally, like under the binding, you can do it with the boot. I've skied in periods without alignment since, like no canting, like no planing of the boots, and I've skied with it. And it's sort of depended on the boot and how I felt on it. And I've gone from as low as a 0.5 degree, like back then it was 3.5 he had me at, 0.5 degree to 0. And it just depends. There's lots of factors that are built into that. But and then skiing with you, I've learned, that perhaps understanding how your body works and just learning to make sure the boot is not in your way, but you may not need to plane it. You might not need a footbed. You just need to understand how your body works and how to access it appropriately.
Yeah, you've got some new boots just sitting next to you there.
Oh,
right?
I do.
Yeah. They're in the box, and that's
right here,
this
man.
season's. Yep.
This is this season's project. Brand new pair of podium boots, and yeah, man, these are awesome. So looking forward to doing these with the big picture kind of
approach to setting up the boots.
You got it. Because you
I'm
really
looking
kind of
forward
blew
to
my
that.
mind last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember sitting sitting in long johns, and we sort of
Yes.
traded boots. Like I said, just put this shell on, and I put yours on, and
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I think we determined, like, you have sort of bowed
I'm
tibias,
very
yeah,
bow-legged. Yes.
down there. So yeah, and I have some different thoughts now around not pushing the knee over, from that position. So yeah, anyway, it's going to be very, very
It's going to be
interesting.
exciting. Yeah. Yeah.
So you do the course in Silver Star. Where was the exam that you aced first
Also,
go? Which is
also
at Silver.
Silver Star. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what was, I got to ask, what was your, if people don't know, Silver Star has some mean double black bump runs. Like
Oh man.
they're gnarly. And so what was your level 4 bump run on at Silver Star?
I can't remember the name of the run. And I'm shocked that I don't, but it was on the backside. But what I do remember is it was unbelievably warm and raining, and it was so slushy. Like it was like, 12
Oh,
inches of slush, and it was sketchy. So I think there was 80 of us there, and we had to all side slip, like spread out and side slip it twice to push out all the slush and try to make it a bit safe. And it was a
wow.
really strange day. And I actually I hip checked, like had a bit of a crash on my run, and still somehow pulled it off. But I remember going, oh, blew that, but still in the end had enough to get through. Um, yeah, that was so. Yeah, it was a gnarly bump run, man.
Wow,
Oh
that's
man.
crazy. I can't believe
Yeah,
you had rain at Silver
yeah,
Star. I mean, yeah, I guess it does happen, but
yeah. It was late
yeah.
spring, and it was challenging. We had every condition that week, and in my teaching day too. My second teaching day was a wet, sprinkly, rainy day. It was soap seeping into your gloves, and I was the last guy to go. And it wasn't ideal, that's for sure.
Do you remember what you had to teach?
Yeah, I was teaching advanced parallel, like big turns,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
did a beginner pedagogy the day before.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so but
So
it
then
was
after
mhm.
so after that, who would you say helped you? Because yeah, like you said, you sort of, whoa, got this level 4, big
Yeah.
shoes. Who do you felt helped you in the next period really sort of evolve? And maybe it wasn't your actual skiing, maybe it was your teaching, or
Right. Well, then because you kind of come through you get your level 4, and you kind of step, you're kind of get to see behind the curtain, and now the next year you get to go to the level 4 training, and now you're with the guys that examined you. Now you're kind, I mean, you're rookie, but you're in that club. And then I got to ski with with Cam Watson. Norm Kreutz was the boss at the time, so Norm is leading the charge. Then he was the Western Course director. Guy Paulson, Steve Smart, Dave Hay, man, just like the stars of the day. Doug Perry, um, just the guys that I looked up to, that I met through that process. Now I'm skiing with them and learning from them. You're I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but they're your peers all of a sudden.
very
And so I
different.
learned a lot. Yeah, very different. And the respect that, hey, we've been where you've been. We're excited you're here, and we're going to help you along. And you know, one of the guys was Dave Hay, was very influential. I met him during the level 3 the year before, and he and I really clicked, and I learned a lot from him. And I skied with him outside of, like, as part of my training. I skied with Dave Hay. Just his approach really clicked with me. The way he spoke about skiing. Not everybody, is necessarily, because when you're finding a mentor, who may be, that person may click with somebody, and they absolutely understand that person, and someone else says, I don't quite understand that approach. And because we all learn a little bit differently, and we all hear words a little bit differently, and we interpret movements a little bit differently. But I really like the way Dave skied, and his passion for his approach was very feeling based, and it really worked with me. Guy Paulson was the consummate professional. The way his eloquence with language, and the way he explained things, um, I wanted that rhythm of speaking at the time. Doug Perry just was this exciting skier, man. I think we all kind of wanted to be Doug. He kind of had a man crush on him. He just ripped. Steve Smart ripped, and then Norm is just the godfather, like, and
Yeah.
still is to this day, still trying to make a turn like Norm once in a while.
And
So
so what do you think technically then at that point you were trying to improve in your skiing? Were you trying to do things faster? Were you trying to get more rebound? What do you remember back then? Anything you were kind of like, oh yeah, I
well,
see that in Doug skiing. I'm going to try and work on that.
skiing was, it was, in a way it was different because we were all on, I was on 207, like the skis behind you right now.
Yeah.
So we were really trying to manage separation, show a lot of it, like counter rotation was so, important at the time. And then trying to, like, it was at the advent of shape skis started, it was just sort of dawning. And so then I was trying to carve an entire turn. Like, could you actually do that? Because we weren't, we were sliding the top and picking up some clean edges through the, after the fall line for a second. And I don't think we were as forensic looking at tracks and what was happening initially. And then over the next, 3 to 4 years, shape skis start to show up. And then you're looking at the tracks differently. You're watching guys on carving snowboards and what they're doing. And like, how are they doing that? Like, they are leaving this clean arc in the snow. There is no slide at all. How is that happening? So there was a lot of focus on angulation and hip, trying to get the hips inside, really get the knees inside. But yet we were still on a ski that wasn't necessarily capable of pulling that off. So it was an interesting kind of time. So technically, it was, for me, it was very stance based. It still was trying to be over my feet, like that my center of mass and my base of support were always aligned, so that I could move, freely and not. So that was a big focus for sure. But I think it was a time of almost more of a stylistic way of skiing than it was a performance or functional way of skiing. There was a look to it still,
Yeah.
and the way you held your hands and the way you pole planted and all that was kind of important, instead of the performance aspect,
Yeah.
it was
Which
more
I think,
dance like,
yeah, but you know what? I personally really like that. I look back at some of those people you've mentioned and the way they ski still stands out because
yeah,
I guess now you mention it, like that was such an important thing. They would have been telling each other, your hands, I don't like where they're at. Like you need them lower or higher,
absolutely.
or that doesn't really get like approached these days. And I
No,
actually think there's, I know there is the, function equals form sort of thing, but I think that it can reverse the other way, and there are things about it because after you like nail a turn, like and especially you look at your video, you go, yeah, okay, that felt pretty good, but I look at that, I don't really like what I'm
yeah,
looking like there, and then other people watching too, like we sort of have just been talking about, certain people, your eye is drawn to, you go, wow, like they have just such composure over every joint and position of their body, and they just look really in tune with things. So I personally like that, and it actually
yeah.
brings up a question around training that era versus sort of now. Do you feel, if you look back now, you probably haven't thought about it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, was the way people trained back then different to now in terms of, was it more kind of like
Yes.
harder? Were there more drills? Did people really have a stronger kind of ethic of like, get out there, and if you're not seen doing your side slips and your different drills, like you're not really going to make it?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit more like practicing your scales on the piano, like warming up. There was a lot of side slipping, a lot of bracage, a lot of spiece, a lot of separation type drills. You know what I mean? You really sense the upper and lower body being separated, and then trying to understand, like maintain your alignment on something that was sliding away from you all the time, because you didn't have the grip and you didn't have the sort of the momentum or the force of the arc, because the ski didn't hold, and the ski was long and it was skinny, so you moved with that ski more, like on the front of the ski to start and on the back of the ski to finish. Because, like, I mean, look at that thing behind you. Like, you needed to get out there on it. And I remember, your slalom ski and your GS ski were basically the same ski. They were just a different length, you know.
Yeah.
So it was very drill based for sure, and you got really good at sliding. Like, another guy that had, an impact on my skiing. Oh my gosh, and now my mind is slipping. Andre Schwartz. Thanks,
Andre
baby.
Schwartz. Okay. So,
Yeah.
So Andre Schwartz.
Yes. So, not that would I consider him a mentor or someone I really knew really well? No. But when I was the assistant director at Lake Louise, I often had the chance to get out and sneak around and ski. And so one day I was running gates with the Lake Louise Ski Club, and Andre, who often was out, skiing around and watching everybody, he was watching myself and some ski racers running gates, and he kind of comes over and goes, "Hey, you, and you, come with me." And I'm like, okay, on, like, because Schwartzy, like, he's the godfather, man. Like, Norm learned from Andre, right? And he wrote Movement in Motion. And so, anyways, he takes us out side slipping. And I was at that time trying to carve, and I was kind of jettisoning the concept of side slipping and thought, I don't need to do that anymore. And he had such an effect on my skiing over the next hour. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was skiing so much better. And then he said, "Okay, guys, back in the gates with what you know." And just on it, on the line, like, so different. And the next day I remember taking my guy, like we ski school out for, whoever showed up that morning for session, to try to repeat what I had just heard. And I couldn't, because I was so blown away, and they were all tuning out and going, "Oh, we're side slipping." And, but he had such an effect on me in that short time. And any other time I did run into him, Andre still, side slipping is his belief that you have to be able to stand on something that is moving away from you. That you need to understand how to catch up with that and stay with it, instead of feeling the grip that it gives you. Like, it's almost like you're cheating. Like, when you have something to stand against, it's more like walking. Like, it's more like being on pavement and having traction. But skiing is always moving, and keeping the center of mass moving with the feet is such an art, to understand that. And
did you see that? Did you see that's the latest video I put out?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're
It's
onto
like this
something.
funny time, because that was what we were also when we skied together.
Yeah.
We're on that. We were maybe just talking about the sensation of side slipping, but not just down the fall line. But I totally agree. And that's what I think is visible in that era of people, the Norm Kreutz and the Pauls and all those guys, and is their ability to just be so comfortable, know exactly where their balance is on a ski that is not going where the tip is going, but it's ever in between that. And if they've got a complete control over all directions of that ski. Absolutely. Sliding, and then when to put it on the edge, and that's totally lost. You're right. So, yeah. So, and people listening are like, "Oh, side slipping, like, use that to get to a cool double black run or something on a ridge, like down past this bit or through these trees." But it's not. And yeah, I think drills hold so much gold inside them if you go more deep into them.
Yeah, I mean, the last 25 years of shape skis have made us so focused on carving that you sort of forget the underlying, like, the fundamentals that allow that performance to occur. And it is understanding how to slide, and not just grip. And like, another guy I ski with is Drew Bragg, who's, Drew is, we won't talk, he's a little bit older than I am, and he's part of that era. And again, skis with such grace and flow, and he's a small, wiry guy that skis completely through balance, like through the alignment of his skeleton. And it's what he learned, I swear, from those days on long skis, side slipping around with the likes of Andre Schwartz. His skiing is still it's so elegant. It's so dance-like, yet has athleticism. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think when you see grace, like, say, a ballet dancer, I don't think people understand the amount of power and strength that is in those dancers. It looks so graceful, but it's the power that creates the grace. And that power comes from alignment often. It's not necessarily that you have to have big muscles and lots of strength. You have to have alignment and understand leverage. And I think,
Yes.
and that's a big part of what you teach, and through
Yes.
like body prep, you know?
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. You just mentioning, how today very much like we're just saying performance oriented, like that ski snow kind of interaction, but very
it's
much
everything.
centered around like those lines. So say someone is just thinking like, okay, like before they go down the hill, they're thinking about the lines in the snow that are being left
Mm-hmm.
versus you take away that and you're thinking about managing mass and momentum, and it
Yes.
doesn't matter what you're leaving on the snow as long as your intended direction and flow of that is good, that's
Yes.
going to end up more dance like. Whereas
Yes.
if you it's just interesting thinking about that, because you're right, that direction of like carving and tracks and
Yeah.
but you, once you start looking beyond that and be able to glide sideways on skis and blend it in, sort of like the tracks
Yeah.
will
Like
look
I
that
think
way, but yeah.
it's that whole pendulum thing and how it's moved, in a couple of directions. And I think it is coming, back to the middle. I think like within the Canadian Ski Instructors Alliance, for like in the last couple of years, we've really started to focus on ski snow interaction. Like that's where your feedback starts. Like as you look at a skier, um, what is the ski doing in the snow? But first you need to know what is the intention? What did the skier want to achieve? Without that, what was their objective, then you're going to be off base. Like if the ski is sliding and you say, oh man, you're skidding because your mind is focused on carving, but that was what their intention was. Well, they might be actually nailing the performance, and it's exactly what they need. So understanding the objective of the skier, of the turn, or whatever, of the run, is going to be critical. But I think it does start on modern skis. Are you achieving the ski snow interaction? Is the skiing objective being met? And then we can
Yes.
flow into the body and the alignment. And I think it should still be aesthetically pleasing. Like, I think that's what makes skiing look cool, if we can use that word, is how the skier does look. So I don't want to jettison the appearance of the skier for just pure performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But somehow they end up going hand in hand. The great
I know
skiers, like
that's right.
the Michaela Schifrin as an example, who I think skis elegantly as well with great alignment, skis with such power. So somehow the form and the function do connect.
That's right. Yeah, there's something there, even though if you purely looked at it, scientifically, well, it's just got to be fast and on the edge, like the other things shouldn't
Yeah.
matter. But it seems that they do. It does come together. There is an effect. Hey,
Yeah.
so Jason, anyone
Yeah.
else you would say like more recently you can remember like a real breakthrough in your skiing with,
In my own skiing, or like mentors that have helped.
or even you figured it out yourself? Like what was a pivotal moment you went, oh, I've been trying to figure out how to do that, suddenly got it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. I don't, yeah. Cause sometimes I'm like, I might have to admit that I've been wrong, as I went through my own development. And, like most recently, I guess I've been very, very focused on trying to balance early on my new outside ski, to the point that I was doing it before skis flat. You know what I mean? Like I'm on the little toe, on my little toe side of my foot. I'm still on edge from the last turn, and I'm already weighting this foot, which works because it does take away weight from the old outside foot, and the center mass crosses over. But I think in a way, it was too soon, and I would and kind of moving correctly, and put too much emphasis on lower leg angulation because of it. Like I was so focused on that I forgot to use my hips, thinking that they would move passively to align. Like as the base moved, the center mass would end up where it should be, and I stopped using it. So what happened is I was over angulating, and like lower leg, over angulation, with no, the inclination was being sacrificed, and the overall balance and freedom throughout the turn was lost. I was kind of locked in, and you could see, well, if you look at video, you can see the knees coming together and things like that happening. So, but I thought that was the right thing. Like I'm focusing on pronating my foot and working with my little toe to my big toe, and I'm doing all of these things, and I
And doing
definitely have
things early. Like everyone's
early,
like early, like do things, don't do it late. So
yeah.
you're like thinking you're on the right track there. Yeah.
I thought I was totally on the right track. And then, to be honest, skiing with you this year, that at Silver Star, that's when you kind of talked about that, and it, wow, like once I made just a slight timing change, and also thought about being more active with the center of mass, those two things created more power, a better arc, performance at the right time, yet I felt more relaxed at the same time. Like there was a freedom, there was no tension where there shouldn't be tension. So the latest breakthrough, and not to, to your horn, but in big picture skiing, but it happened. It happened this winter. That was quite a change. And
Yeah.
you can see it in some of the videos that you and I shot. And the final video I shot, at the end of April in Sunshine, was just such a different alignment, way more stacked and relaxed, and there's symmetry where there should be, the appropriate symmetry. And so I'm excited to continue down that path this winter and see where it takes me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm excited that you're joining the big picture coaching team.
Yeah, me too.
That's going to be
Man.
that's going to be cool. And so I mean, speaking to that, we're offering this online academy that I run. So a small group of people to work directly with us, be able to send in video, join in weekly Zoom sessions where we'll discuss a topic. Guess what? I think the side slipping one's going to come up, and
yes, for sure.
Yeah, like people are going to be tasked with working on the things that we think are important to develop their skiing, and then you're in charge of the group that are going to be sort of CSIA ski instructor specific.
Yes.
So then if they're, whether or not they're going for exams, doesn't matter. They could just be wanting to be better skiers. Doesn't matter. But
Yes.
you're there to help sort of translate sort of language, terminology used in the Canadian stuff with the big picture program. So I'm stoked on that. Can I ask you, you've joined in and you've sort of sat in with the body prep, my off-season coaching program. Any little things you've found, you've learned from that experience that you think it's like, wow, okay, that's going to help, or yeah, you've had a glimpse into it yourself. Yeah.
I think there's so many that, to be honest, Tom, right now, I couldn't hone in on one particular thing, but what I can say is that, and this is what I noticed in your approach from the very, very beginning. Like when I first watched one of your videos with the, here's the skeleton and the joints moving, and then there's a picture of you skiing, and then, and to understand how it truly works. Like sometimes I don't know if the language that we use in our different organizations gets deep enough into how we truly move. And that's what body prep was all about. It wasn't about training and muscles and cardiovascular system. Not and when I say muscles in terms of strength, you honed in on specifically how the joint works, what muscles move those, and how that attaches to a certain point of the turn. And that's like, it was like a mind muscle connection connected to the practicalities of traveling on an arc on a ski. And I found that absolutely mind blowing. We just patterned movements that we're going to need later on snow. And I can't wait to use that. So I think that, and that's always what appealed to me. Like there was like sort of like, I think of the Matrix where they say the question is out there looking for you, like, and it's making you crazy, like, or the answer is looking for you, pardon me. And that's what it was like. There was things I couldn't answer, I couldn't explain, but I knew innately I needed to. And some of those videos that you produce, I went, there's the answer. And that's what, so I just started following you more and more and more, and starting to become a bit of a disciple, I suppose. And now I can't wait to share those ideas. And that's what you've brought, I think, is you've been very inquisitive and have dug deep into your understanding of how the body moves and your love of snow sport. And that's an amazing, connection. So, yeah, well, I don't know if I answered that question appropriately.
Yeah, no. Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I think you put it really well in that mind muscle connection, and then taking it one step further too. And then in this situation, this part of the turn, that's when you're going to need to feel this. Like that's what we're doing. We're doing this stuff, and we're not doing squats or this and that, like just getting generally stronger. It's like, no. Like where are you putting the weight of this part of your body on this joint? Do you realize it's creating this leverage, which is forcing this muscle to work? And you're countering it with this part of your body. Have you tried countering it with another part of your body and see what does that do? How does that position your mass? And so it's hopefully going to help. Like you're hopefully going to come into this season, even though you're already a very experienced skier, with just another level up on awareness of things, and be able to sort of put even more style into your skiing. So
exactly. Yeah, I think that's what's great about, I think that's what's attracted me and kept me in skiing for so long is the pursuit of the perfect turn. I don't know if that's a thing, but it takes a long time to be really good at this, to be consistently good at it. And there's always new learnings and, new epiphanies that come along. I think one of the things from this year was you also, and it's in one of your videos, that your legs may not be parallel from your hips to your feet, right? Because of Q angles and things like that. And so maybe don't try to have parallel legs, probably parallel shins, but maybe not parallel femurs. And I thought that, and just that little tip changed me a lot. Like, because I'm not pushing my knee somewhere that it shouldn't be, in an effort to my inside knee, especially in an effort to make my legs parallel. And looking for that in other skiers and understanding that may not be appropriate for their build,
like you said, now you really have the answer to say, hey, this is why you don't need to. You would have seen it, but then not known how to answer it correctly, and said, well, I know you're trying to not, A-frame, and so you're rolling that inside leg, and before this you would have known, well, I don't have a counter to that, because if they take that and they go back, they're probably going to A-frame. But now you go, hang on, I always knew there's something wrong there, but I can explain why.
Exactly. Yeah. So many cool things, and can't wait to get the winter rolling.
I'm really looking forward to
online.
Yeah. And that gives us consistency. So, we're going to be able to, over 10 weeks or the whole season, 20 weeks, be able to go, doesn't matter if you haven't got this in the first few tries, keep going. Keep submitting video. We'll keep checking different things until maybe it's a boot alignment thing, and we can check that online. That is stopping you from being able to release both skis simultaneously, or whatever it is. And you know what I find is always amazing. You get to this point, and someone will hear you say, say the inside knee, don't roll your inside knee so much because of blah blah blah. The thing that's probably been getting in someone's way was something from maybe 3-4 years ago, where someone with good authority said, hey, you need to do this, you shouldn't do that. And so they've held on to that belief and really patented in, and that is the thing that is getting in the way of progress. So kind of blowing common misconceptions out of the water, that sort of stuff is really fun. With this length of time we get to work with people. I like to work with people for a longer period of time. You can have a better impact.
I think so too. Yeah. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I can tell you in my own development, there was certainly misunderstandings along the way. And we spoke of one of them, but people should not be frustrated with how long it takes to learn something, or if they maybe even need to unlearn something. Don't be frustrated with that. I was a level 4 for 15 years when I had a massive breakthrough and realized I had misunderstood something, and it changed my skiing so much. And I'll tell that story at another time. But don't be frustrated, and put the time in, and know that in our culture, our microwave culture, where we think we can fix things immediately, we want what we want and we want it now. This is career-long development, and so 10 weeks, 20 weeks, that'll just set the stage, for the development. And you might learn this; it'll make sense next year. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Even though you picked it up now, So, I think you're very right. Long-term and lots of reinforcement, and that's what the online academy can do for you. For those that are going to participate, you can submit a video or two every single day, and you will own that video. It'll be recorded and archived and downloaded with you, so you can go back to it over and over again. And it'll take some time, but work with it, And so, yeah. Long story short, this is long-term development is where it's at. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen if you have the perseverance.
Yeah. So on that, if people are interested in joining the Big Picture Skiing Academy, whether you don't have to be a CSIA member, but we've got that program as well. If you go to bigpictureskiing.com, and at the top, there is an Academy button. You click on that, Winter Academy, and there's an application form there. And so we're taking applications, we'll go through it. And if we feel it's the right fit, we're going to organize a time. So Jason or myself are going to get in touch with you, and we'll have a chat like this over Zoom, look at some of your skiing, discuss your goals, and see if it's the right fit for you. But that's the process if you're interested in doing something like this upcoming winter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Jason, thank you very much for your time. I've really enjoyed the stories. I mean, I'm a huge fan of skiing, sort of from when you started. There's just so many, just good lessons, amazing skiers, like methods of doing things back then that I think, I'm trying to incorporate and bring into my own skiing now, because that you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No.
So thank you for your stories and your insights. Thank you for joining the coaching team. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll hear from you next time.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Tom, and thanks everybody. Look forward to skiing with you this winter.